Hello, I am Jamila McMallow, and I am a life and relationship strategist for powerful, driven women coaches and business owners. And today I'm coming to you with your Get Real and Heal moment. Okay? So we're talking about, are you making life harder than it has to be for yourself? The short answer is yes. If you're powerful, driven, doing your thing in your business, in your life, that's just your nature, that's just the way you are, I can guarantee with just about absolute certainty that yes, in one, if not all of the three areas I'm going to talk about, you're making your life harder than it has to be for yourself, okay? So the first area that I want to talk about is you could be making your life harder simply because of your view or construct around womanhood and the set of unreasonable expectations that you may be putting upon yourself or that you have for yourself. For example, many of us as women were raised in households or cultures where our mothers or the women slaved for everybody else, right? They did everything for everybody else and put themselves totally last and never really made their own needs, their own emotions, their own feelings a priority. And so with seeing that, you live what you learn, okay? And certainly if your mother was that way or your caregiver, female caregiver was that way, then you may have internalized that this is what it means to be a woman. This is what it means to be a good woman, is that I have to continue to outpour myself and make sure everybody else is okay. And as long as everybody else is okay, has what they need, and that they're happy, then I'm good. So that isn't going to make your life easier. It's going to make it harder. Because what happens is when your complete focus is on the feelings of other people being your gauge as to whether or not you're okay with you, well, that's a problem. Because if they begin to take you for granted, if they begin to lack showing appreciation or gratitude for what you're doing, then guess what you're going to start to feel? You're going to start to feel resentful. You're going to start to feel used and things like that. And here's the big question that you need to ask yourself is, does anybody in your life, from your husband down to your children, expect you to overgive the way that you're doing? Or is this you? So is that the expectation that your husband has of his wife? Is this the expectation that your children have? And mind you, children don't really have, they want to be loved. They want to be given attention. Okay. They deserve to have their needs met and some of their desires fulfilled that are wholesome. Why not? So my point is that a lot of times the reason why you may be finding yourself struggling in this area is because it's actually you that's putting all this weight on top of yourself and creating an unreasonable expectation that you are going to continue to do and do and do and not completely wear yourself out, run yourself into the ground, and be miserable to be around, okay? Nobody wants to be around that. Nobody wants to. Your husband wants you to do whatever you need to do to be happy and ready to do what he enjoys doing with you, okay? And so this is something you may want to examine. Are you really required or expected to behave this way in your family life, in your marriage? Is this what you're supposed, is this how you're, and if you are expected, if this is what he wants, if this is what he has required or whatever, then you need to really have a conversation, because it is unrealistic to expect that another human being would serve your every whim and wish and not have any of theirs fulfilled. That's not realistic. But if you have looked at any of my content, then you know that the woman I'm speaking to, again, is a powerful, driven woman who, if she's married, has a good husband. And she's actually the one who's bringing the drama to the relationship, not him. And so if you have a good husband who loves you, who's trying to be there for you, but you're bringing all this stuff into the marriage about what you think you need to be, and that's not what he's asking for, it's not even what he wants, and you're just running yourself into the ground and being grumpy and unpleasant to be around, who is the culprit? It's you. And so you have to examine and change your constructs of what it means to be a good woman, and create reasonable expectations for yourself, okay? Now, the second area that I want to touch on where you could be making life harder on yourself is when it comes to your feelings of worthiness and deservingness. And this may be something that's a challenge because of your driven, powerful nature. You are confident, right? You know you're talented at what you do. You have amazing clients, etc., etc. So you may not inherently feel that you somehow on some level don't feel worthy or don't feel deserving, because to you that may come off as a sign of weakness, and you may consider yourself to be a very strong person, who's not easily shaken. So we're not talking about any of that, okay? When you are this way, okay, if you have these feelings around worthiness and deservingness, what actually may be going on underneath is that you feel like you have to earn everything that is given to you. It's almost as if you don't actually deserve anything. You are only allowed to have whatever you bust your butt for and sacrifice for and scrape and scrounge and struggle for, right? You believe that you have to do something all the time in order to receive even the things that you're actually just naturally deserving of because you exist. Now, what I am not talking about is a person who has a lazy or entitled spirit. And let me assure you and remind you again that if you are the type of woman that I work with, the type of woman who's drawn to my content, my audience, that's not who you are. You're not lazy and entitled. You would have to make such a deliberate effort to become that way that it would be a 24/7 job to just all of a sudden become that. It's not who you are. Okay. That's not who you are. And so allowing yourself to recognize that you are inherently deserving of certain things just because you exist is a mind-blowing concept, because you have been living your whole life under the belief system that the only way you get anything is if you check off boxes, if you do this, if you do that, if you push, go, do. You don't get anything just handed to you. And that, my friend, is a false construct that is absolutely making your life harder than it has to be, because there are some things that you are just absolutely deserving of just because you are alive and breathing. You are absolutely deserving of time. When you were born as a baby, you were absolutely deserving of time, the time of your parents to give you the attention. You were absolutely worthy and deserving of being loved. You were born lovable. You don't have to do anything to be worthy of being loved. Okay? You were deserving of that upon breathing that first breath, because you exist. Do you understand what I'm saying? And you were worthy of receiving the things that you needed. Food, shelter, clothing, all those things. You were deserving of those things because you simply existed. When babies show up, those are all the things they deserve to have, and they don't have to do anything to prove themselves, to work for it, whatever. That is their right. None of that has changed simply because you're now an adult. None of that has changed simply because you're now an adult. You are still deserving of the love, time, and attention of the people that you care about in your life, namely your husband, okay, or your children. You don't have to constantly feel like you have to prove or do. Now, I'll say this: if you're in a marriage and it's a relationship, you two have created an understanding between you two. He has needs, you have needs, you meet each other's needs. Now, if at any time you just decide, I'm not going to do what I'm supposed to do, you can't expect him to continue to feel the same way about you, and vice versa. So I'm not talking about that. I'm not saying, well, he's supposed to love me, so I'm just going to sit on my behind and not do anything. Not saying that at all. What I'm saying is simply because you are a human being and you live and breathe and exist, you are deserving of being loved. And you don't have to dance on a stage and sing and do all these crazy things to check off boxes to prove that you are worthy of it. There are so many women who are not in relationships right now, or who are settling and dealing with all these toxic men because they won't heal what's going on inside of them, because they don't feel they deserve a good man, because they feel like if I got a good man, then I'm going to have to all of a sudden become and do all these things that I just don't want to do. The expectations change. And what I'm saying to you is has nothing to do with the man and everything to do with how you feel about you. So my point is, if you feel like you are unworthy or not deserving of anything unless you earn it, unless you prove it, that's a problem. Because every single solitary thing does not fall into that category. No, it does not. You are naturally deserving of certain things just because you exist. And like I said, if you're a part of my audience, then I know that you're actually going and doing and being and trying to do good things. You know, you're helping your clients change their lives. You're helping your clients become better people. You're trying to create jobs. You're trying to help. And if you are in a business, you know, your customers and things like that. So you're doing good things. You're not a taker. You're not a person who's just out there trying to get what you can get for nothing. That's not who you are. And so I'm talking to you because whereas this way of being has brought you a lot of success, it has benefited many people. It really benefits anybody who comes into contact with you. But what I'm telling you is you're making life harder than it has to be because you spend all your focus and energy on grinding, on hustling, on struggling, on pushing, on driving, because you keep thinking that you have to go do B, check off a box in order to receive things that you're just naturally deserving of, that you don't have to do all that for that. Okay? And I know that that's like, what is she talking about? That doesn't make sense. That's fine. Send me a DM, drop it in the comments. I'm happy to elaborate. But I'm just letting you know that that is going to make things harder for you when you don't believe you deserve anything, not one single thing, unless you are driving and pushing yourself. And this is why, if you go back and you watch my video on gratitude, you need to be practicing gratitude, because then you will understand that you are receiving things on a regular and daily basis, that you are being blessed without you doing anything consciously to deserve it or earn it. You are being gifted good things all the time that you need to stop and develop an awareness of. And that's because I believe in God. That's because of how God feels about you and how he views you and what he views you as being deserving of. Okay? He's not giving you what it's based upon how he sees you. And so you might want to tap into that. And gratitude helps you do that, is to see yourself the way that God sees you. And then you therefore can start to understand that, okay, maybe I am worthy of the love of a good man. Maybe I am deserving of this amazing husband that I have been blessed with and that I'm enjoying life with. Maybe I don't have to make things so difficult for myself, because here's the thing. The majority of my clients are married women, and they are, again, that powerful, driven woman, and they actually have a history of toxic relationships. They don't have a history of having great relationships and marriages with men, but now they have actually found a good man and still find themselves struggling. And that's because the things that they needed to work on within themselves, the things that they needed to heal, they haven't done yet. And so that's what we do together for 6 months one-on-one, to help them clear up their stuff, so it's no longer clouding the waters or muddying the waters of their marriage and relationship with someone who actually is good to them, treats them well, loves them, is trying to hang in there with them despite all the drama they're bringing to the table. And so I only say that because if you happen to, like I said, find a great man, get married, but you don't feel you're worthy and deserving of him, guess what you're going to do? You're going to sabotage the relationship. But here's the thing. If he's a good guy, he's going to continue to hang in there with you, but he's going to end up being miserable because you keep trying to push him away. Subconsciously, you'll keep doing things to reveal and show that you actually don't believe you are worthy of the relationship. Okay? And your mind is simply trying to prove you right, which is what it does. Okay? So I'm not going to go into some long dissertation about limiting beliefs. I can do that in another video. I'm sure I've done it on a previous video. But my point being is that you have to begin to understand that you are inherently worthy and deserving, that you are in fact enough just because of the fact that you live, breathe, and exist. There are certain things that you're allowed to have and receive just because you are who you are, not because of what you do or are doing. Okay? Now, the last area I want to touch on where you may be making life harder for yourself than it has to be is when it comes to your relationship with money. Now, this is a huge ball of yarn, onion, whatever. The fact of the matter is people who are the most materialistic, people who spend the most time worrying about money, just an inordinate amount of mental energy worrying about money. The people who are in that state are people who are broke and have an unhealthy relationship with money. And by that, I mean, it's typically a scarce and lack mindset around it. What does that mean? It means that you have a negative view of money. You have a negative relationship with money. You view it as always never being enough, right? So it's lacking. You view it as hard to get, so it's scarce. You feel like no matter what happens, you never have enough, or you can never get what you need on time. It's always this fight for it. There's struggle associated with it. There's this angst around it. Well, here's what I need you to understand is that money is not alive. It's not an entity, okay? But you add so much weight and spend so much time worrying about it because you have never really uncovered and addressed your limiting beliefs around it. If you actually understood what it is and what it's not, then it wouldn't be such a then you wouldn't spend, if you just understood that there's an abundance of it, if you just believe that it's available, if you need it, if you desire it, etc. And if you just understood what you needed to do to acquire it in any given moment at any given time, then you really wouldn't spend all the energy that you do worrying about it, focusing on where is it, I don't have it, blah, blah, blah. What you focus on, you get more of. So if you're always focused on how much you don't have, how much you need, always negative, then that's going to continue to be your money story. That's going to continue to be your relationship with money. And let's face it, we all have bills. We all have to work if we want to eat, right? Whether that's in our business or whether that's in a job. But how we view it, how we choose to focus on it, and what we choose to focus on about it is going to absolutely shape whether or not we are making our lives harder than they have to be. So the thing is that you really want to make sure that you do the work on this area. Because like I said, if you have any sort of unhealed money trauma, and you may have heard that expression, and I'll explain what it means for those of you who are like, okay, sometimes if you grew up poor, or if you grew up with a poor mindset, right? Maybe you had, but your parents always expressed or talked about money as we don't have it, or we can't afford it, or the answer was no to every time you expressed a desire to something, then like I said, now you've developed this unhealthy relationship with money. And then maybe you have a fear that like, oh no, if I have too much money, then all of a sudden that makes me a bad person. Or you have a feeling that wealthy people are somehow bad in some way just because they have more money. So your whole construct and relationship with money is that it's not safe, it's lacking, it's in scarcity. It's all negative. It's all negative. And if that's how you see it, if that's your construct around it, that doesn't make you frugal, that doesn't make you good with money, it makes you cheap and broke, and you have an unhealthy relationship with money. Those are two different things. There are people who choose to live a simple life. And we should all be living within our means, but they do it deliberately and intentionally for altruistic reasons. And then there are people who are just bad with money and don't have it and are already always scraping and scrounging. That doesn't make you're not doing anything righteous because you don't have any money. Conscious choice, just bad with money. Two different things. And so you really want to understand that how you view money is going to make your life harder than it has to be. Because if you have a healed, healthy relationship with money, you're not going to be materialistic. You're not going to be inordinately focused on it. You're not, because you just have a healthy view of it and know that it shows up when you need it. It's available. You know how to acquire it, all these different things. And that's your new belief and construct around it. It's positive. And so you no longer waste your time and energy in this negative space of struggle and fight, okay? So just to review, the 3 ways that you may be making your life harder than it has to be are: 1, how you view womanhood and the unreasonable expectations you're setting for yourself as a result of that. Second of all, your feelings around worthiness or deservingness, really not addressing the underlying feelings that are going on underneath and how that's causing you to show up and feel like you have to prove and push and push. And then third, your relationship with money. Having an unhealed, unhealthy relationship with money is absolutely going to make your life harder than it has to be. So the way that I help my clients one-on-one in my 6-month program is we actually dig deep and dig down into those childhood relationships with your parents that are really the root of where these beliefs and constructs came from. And what we do is we heal the wounds that came from those relationships and some of the experiences that you had, and allow you to create the space within yourself to now put in the beliefs and things that you want to have and believe to be true about life, about men, about marriage, about money, about, and most importantly, about yourself, about who you are and what you're worthy and deserving of, okay? Because the number one relationship besides your relationship with God is the relationship with yourself. If you have an unhealthy relationship with yourself, that radiates out and affects every other relationship that you have, okay? So that's how I help my clients. And then once that space is created in my year-long mastermind, Emotional Mastery, we focus on the habits and the practices that are going to help you solidify and anchor in your new way of being. Because facts, it's very easy to, and quickly really, for you to develop self-awareness. And, you know, it's easy as well. I won't say easy, I'll say simple as well, for you to kind of create the shifts. But the work really is in becoming and embodying now this new version of yourself, because your ways of being, your habits and practices that supported who you were before, and now who are you without your trauma and your stories that you've been telling yourself and your limiting beliefs? Now who are you with these new beliefs and this new way of being and this new way of feeling and this upgraded way you're stepping out into life? What habits do you need now in order to remain in this state and continue to progressing from this place? That's what we focus on in my year-long mastermind. So if you would like to learn anything more about working with me, about my programs, by all means, send me a DM, okay, here on Instagram, or if you're watching this on YouTube, you know, the links will be in the description below. And you can always reach out to me through my website at coachjamila.com. But I want to thank you for watching if you're watching this live. And I want to thank you for watching if you're watching the replay. And I hope that this Get Real and Heal moment was helpful to you, because this was my message for you today, ladies. Stop making life harder than it has to be. All right? And if you want to stop, let me know. I'm here to help.